What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Dynasty Pros Fantasy Show. I'm your host, Bob Miller, and you can find me over on Twitter at DynastyBobFF. I've got a couple of special guests with me, starting off with John McGlynn. John, tell everybody about yourself a little bit. You can find him. I know you can tell him. I can tell you can find him over on PTW. A lot of content over there you've been doing for quite a while.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to run in Nick Script, just kind of putting a home league together from Twitter names I got together, and we've been kind of just doing fantasy football shit together for a while. Excuse me. He's kind of, that guy is the most busiest human being I've ever seen on the face of the earth with his stuff. But it's great to work with him. I learn a lot, and I saw that Fantasy Pros or Dynasty Pros was having people over here, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me! Like, I'll join. I got a hold of Bob. I'm like, what can I do? How can I help the team a little bit? And I don't write too much. I try to write a little bit, but I love doing podcasts about as much time as I have for the Dynasty stuff. I run a bunch of home leagues, so I stay active on Twitter at John McGlynn 75, and happy to be a part of the team here at Dynasty Pros, and happy to be part of this. These guys have been busy all week long. The background talk, the background chatter, everything about this being here has been great for the last 2 weeks I've been here. So thanks for having me on board, Bob.
No, it's a pleasure, and we're very fortunate to have you, man. So and it has been a busy, crazy week, and we have been keeping up with all the free agent tracking. We're doing all kinds of stuff over at DynastyProsFootball.com right now, just editing stuff. I mean, heck, I might have to edit that intro video before too long with all these players changing teams and everything. So it's something I have to keep an eye on. And right now, I do want to introduce SC Romero. Everybody knows him by SC. He's over at RPO Football. Does a lot of great stuff over there with IDPs and everything, man. I love your work. You're over there with my boy, Master IDP. Great guy there as well, man. So tell everybody about yourself. You're one of the newest additions to the team.
Yes,
and we're I'm super excited to have you. So tell everybody about yourself a little bit.
Yeah, man. Well, no, first off, excited to be part of the team. Talk some good Dynasty football. I host my own show on YouTube, the PPR Show. You can follow us on Twitter at the PPR Show. But yeah, man, I've been playing fantasy football since my first draft pick was Ronnie Brown. So whenever that was, and I just fell in love with it. I play IDP leagues, Campus to Cannon leagues, Devy leagues, you name it, I'm probably in it. But just excited to share some news, join some good fantasy football talk, and just build up on my knowledge based on what y'all say. So, excited to bring what I know to the team and, help it build up.
Ronnie Brown from the Eagles or the Dolphins?
I'm sorry?
Ronnie Brown when he's on the Dolphins or the Eagles?
Yeah, when he was on I drafted him, man. It was, I think I drafted him the 7th overall, and that was the year he broke his leg. And so, I blame my cousin for this, and he knows it because he's a Dolphins fan. And he was like, man, I hope he doesn't work out for you that year, because he was the draft pick after me. And sure enough, he got injured and didn't work out for me. And I blame him for that year every time I talk to him about fantasy football.
All right. Hey, and Cody, welcome to the team. Cody's one of our newest members over at DynastyProsFootball.com. He started with us last week. We're really excited. We've been adding a lot of talent lately, and we are also looking for more talent. So if you or anybody you know is interested in starting in the fantasy football industry, give us a shout. Let us know. Hit us up on Twitter. Hit me up on Twitter. Anywhere you can find us. We'll definitely be interested in talking with you. So, Cody, how you doing, man?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. Just getting the kids down and all that. You know how that goes.
No, I do know how that goes. Yes, mine. Luckily, she's on spring break, so I'm letting her stay up just a little bit later tonight. So.
There you go. I got a 4-year-old. I can't do that yet.
Oh, yeah. No way there. Well, all right. Well, hey, guys, let me ask you all a question real quick before we get started with today's news. Has there been anything that has really stuck out to you this week, like maybe a signing that caught you off guard, something that was maybe a favorite signing of yours, someone that got cut that you didn't expect to get cut, a trade? I mean, what's a move or two that's really stuck out to you guys this week? John, let me start with you.
I'm going to go with David Montgomery to the Lions. That one is, I knew Montgomery was. I was kind of hoping he'd stay in Chicago. Just because he is a good running back. He's not great, but he's a really good running back. But to be paired up in the backfield with Swift now, I feel like Swift is on the move, is what that kind of spells. If not, maybe they're just worried about injury concerns for Swift. They like both of them, but they know Swift can't handle a workload by himself. Both of these guys are, I mean, Swift's a little bit better version than Montgomery, but both of them can catch. Both of them are good, can run good, are very well runners. Both of them, they're okay in the pass. They're good in pass blocking, not great, but good. And that to have both of them on the same team is kind of a head scratcher for fantasy, but these are things that in the real NFL make a lot of sense, because if they're going to make a playoff run, they can't afford to have a running back go down and not have a backup plan. So the Montgomery signing here is an upgrade over what they had last year in Williams, but this is it's caught me by surprise, but at the same time, I'm kind of pleasantly surprised for football, not pleasantly surprised for fantasy football, even though I think both these guys will be back end running back twos. So that's where I think about that.
Okay, well, we'll get into that here in a couple of minutes, because when we start going over the news, I do want to discuss David Montgomery and DeAndre Swift here a little bit. So, all right, moving on. SC, what's something that stuck out to you maybe this week, a move or two?
I mean, mine was Montgomery also, but I'll pivot over just because we just, basically what you said was it. But I'll probably say, one that I like was Andy Dalton going to the Carolina Panthers. They traded away Sam Darnold to the 49ers. They traded up for the one overall. So chances are, my thought was they were going CJ Stroud, but now it's like, okay, CJ Stroud might be a pro-ready quarterback to go in there and start, and Andy Dalton's a valuable backup. But also, there's been ties with them and Anthony Richardson. So maybe they go Richardson, give him some time to study the tape, the scheme, and everything like that, and let Andy Dalton go in there and get a good start. So for fantasy purposes, I think that's a great buy low right now, just simply because he kind of proved last year he still has some juice in him. Not an every week starter, but definitely so. And if he gets that opportunity, you can go after him and get him. So I think that's very interesting to see who they'll draft, because that'll be a telltale sign if Andy Dalton is the starter week 1 in Carolina.
Yeah, agreed. Cody, what about you, big guy? What do you anything stick out to you, bro?
I actually have two moves. Juju to the Patriots, I think, is an interesting move. Obviously that he turns into their wide receiver 1. I truly believe that. Now, can Mac Jones get him the ball? I think that's the biggest question mark. But nonetheless, he brings a Super Bowl ring, so that's huge to that wide receiver core and to maybe not the organization, since they've had such a great run, but and they still have the Super Bowl head coach, so that also helps. I think another big one was Rashad Penny to the Eagles, and I thought it was surprising. I think it helps Gainwell more than anything, because Gainwell's there and knows the offense, but Rashad Penny obviously is injury prone, so it was an interesting move, I thought.
Yeah, I thought Rashad Penny signing was a little strange. I mean, when he's on the field, he's very, very productive, but he's had a lot of durability issues. Just a lot to me tells me that they're just not done there in Philly. There's a lot of talent out there. I think we kind of talked, John and I kind of mentioned Kareem Hunt to possibly Chicago or something there, but man, I could see Kareem Hunt being a fit really almost anywhere. If you can think about Kareem Hunt maybe in that Philly offense, that would be pretty tough. That would be a nice landing spot there. So, all right, so let's get on to the news. We kind of went over a couple of things just now, but probably the biggest news of the day is Ezekiel Elliott being released by the Cowboys. They needed to do it. I mean, I think everyone saw that writing on the wall, and they made it official earlier today. So, what's our thoughts on that? Anybody can just dive in there and start. So,
I think it was something we knew was coming. Tony Pollard had a great season last year. So it's clear that they want him as that RB1 role. I know rumors have now been circling around that they'll get Bijan, which will be interesting. But I think they believe in Tony Pollard, and it'll be a huge thing just for him moving forward. Zeke has some juice left. Is he the RB1 top 10 starter? I don't know. But either way, whoever gets him will still get a valuable running back, I think.
I thought, what a move it would be. I mean, just what if Zeke signed with Philly?
Yeah.
I was thinking, what if he signed with the Bucks and then he makes Rachaad White the next Tony Pollard? I thought that would be a good move for him.
They already had Zeke there. His name was Leonard Fournette.
That's true, but
and I could see Zeke ended up on someone like the Chiefs or something. There's a lot of different players could end up there, but they kind of need a grinder, a banger, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire is not that guy. Pacheco's about the size of me, and so they need somebody that can kind of fight for those hard yards. And Zeke could be one of those guys, and Fournette would be probably a good fit there as well. But I just thought, just an ultimate like bad guy villain move, as if he went and signed with someone like Philly. That would be pretty funny. I'd love to see it, actually. I think it'd be hilarious myself.
That's a good complimentary. I think him and Jalen Hurts. He's can be an every down back, especially talking about Kenneth Gainwell. I think that just fits well with both of them. Have a bruiser, and then you have someone that can go out and do some things with Kenneth Gainwell as well.
Yeah, it'd be pretty.
Is Zeke at the end of the rope here now, as far as that goes? Because one of my dynasty leagues, he got traded for Mike White today, a guy who had Tua, is kind of afraid of any kind of situations with Tua in a dynasty superflex. If Zeke goes somewhere and he's just a wash, just one of a rotation guy somewhere early down back, yeah, I mean, he's not special anymore. He's not the special Zeke we knew from before. I mean, yeah, he's still okay, but okay doesn't move the needle in fantasy football. It's okay.
No, but running back is a position you need plenty of in a fantasy league or dynasty league, just any fantasy league, no matter the format. So having as many running backs on your bench or something like that, it does not hurt. These guys get hurt a lot. And I remember 2 years ago playing in an actual fantasy championship in a dynasty league, and oh my God, my two starting running backs in the championship game were Devontae Freeman when he was with the Ravens, Devontae Freeman and Dontrell Hilliard. That was my starting running backs in a championship game because everybody had gone down. So yeah, it doesn't hurt, but your friend, whoever was in your league that traded Zeke today, I mean, that's just cutting bait for nothing. This is not the time to trade him or get rid of him. You got to hold on to him until he does sign. What if he did sign with Philly? What if he signs with Kansas City or something like that? His value is going to spike up a little bit. He's going to be trending. That's when you sell. There's nothing wrong with selling him, but selling him now is like, that's just bad.
It was actually a trade that happened yesterday before Zeke got cut today. So hindsight being 2020, and this guy already has like 4 really good running backs in his roster. He only has 2 quarterbacks, and he had to deal with the Tua situation all last year. Tom Brady retired. He's got other situations where the last couple of years, a lot of his quarterbacks all just fell at the wayside. So it's hard to get a quarterback in Dynasty. You have to overpay to get another quarterback, even an average quarterback anywhere else. Mm-hmm. So to have a situation where he probably would have won the championship last year if Tua would have stayed healthy. So he's like, I'm not doing that. I don't really care. I got 4 or 5. He's got Chubb, and he's got I forgot who's on the roster. He's one of 8 leagues I'm in, but
yeah, exactly.
He's it was somewhere where he needed to make sure. And Mike White's a pretty good backup. I don't think he's a special quarterback, but he's a good backup. If he's just making sure that situation does not happen to him again this year.
Absolutely, it's a smart move. So speaking of the Eagles, they cut Darius Slay today. Is that surprising or what?
Yeah, I think so. Just all around, because he was a great asset to their Super Bowl run, right? But he's also an older one, so I know they're looking to build up a younger core there to actually have like a dynasty, not just a 1 year, one and done. Mm-hmm. So I think he's gonna be a big free agent to watch, in the upcoming days, just to see where he'll sign, because he'll definitely get signed. He's a lockdown corner, and he's one of those iron sharpens iron. I think AJ Brown and Devontae Smith both became better because in practice they're going up against him on a weekly basis.
I did see that Baltimore Ravens cornerback Marlon Humphrey tweeted something a couple hours back, and he said, we're basically something around the emotion. We're making big moves today. Stay tuned. And then I saw Darius Slay commented on it with just the little eyes, and I was like,
that'd be awesome. The Ravens defense, man, they know how to lock down those players. So having Marlon Humphreys and Darius Slay, watch out. Hopefully,
I think Slay would be. I think he would be an upgrade to Marcus Peters, even though I do like Marcus Peters, but he gets cooked quite a bit lately. So
yeah,
real bad. Real. He's a sucker for that double move, man. That's it. So. All right, let's see here. Aaron Rodgers. Is there anything going on with that guy? I mean,
It's a
it
little
looks
bit,
like,
huh?
I mean, he was on anybody that's on Twitter saw that stuff, man. We don't have to regurgitate this stuff, but obviously he's, said on Pat McAfee today that he has all intentions to play for the New York Jets. They just got to figure out the deal, the compensation. However, I don't know I'm not an A-Rod fan, man. He's just getting a little too wishy-washy, man. And this sign Alan Lazard, go sign Mercedes Lewis. You need to bring in Randall Cobb, and go sign Odell Beckham. All of this is getting very, very annoying. And if you're like a Garrett Wilson owner in Dynasty, I mean, how do you feel about this? Because when you're thinking, A-Rod's coming to town and you're thinking Garrett Wilson, you're automatically thinking like the new Devontae Adams. But
Right.
now, man, if you've got Lazard, I'm not worried about Mercedes Lewis at all, but you got Lazard, you bring in Randall Cobb, who's not a big threat, and then you maybe bring in an Odell Beckham. I mean, that's a lot of targets that Garrett Wilson is not going to get. Does that work? If that were to happen, are you worried as a Garrett Wilson fan? I mean, what are we doing with this guy?
I think it only worries me in redraft formats rather than dynasty because I know they just signed Lazard for 4 years?
Yeah.
He's a good compliment. It'll be good on the other side of Wilson, but who knows how long Aaron Rodgers is going to play? It could be 1 year, it could be 2. I know the contract is up just for 2, but he does this every offseason. So, I mean, he could retire next year, and then I think Garrett Wilson will be better again. So I think redraft, I would be worried for Garrett Wilson, but in dynasty formats and stuff like that, I think he's still a good player. Again, you just have to be a patient for a lot of players in dynasty too.
Is this going to be a situation where there's just too many mouths to feed again? Like you get Breece Hall who catches balls, Garrett Wilson, Alan Lazard. You still got Elijah Moore. They're probably going to cut Corey Davis. If they bring in if they bring in Odell Beckham Jr., this is a situation where would it be one of those things where, again, is it only good to have like kind of like a Patrick Mahomes or a Josh Allen, something like that, where it's towards the end of the season you saw they just did the only person you could really own on the fantasy team was the quarterback because the ball got spread apart so much. So is this a situation where, yes, Garrett Wilson had an awesome rookie season and he's a great receiver, but if the volume goes everywhere else, if the running back's getting 5 targets or 7 targets a game and the tight end's getting 5 targets a game, what's going to happen to Conklin? I guess that's another. He was kind of his value was on the rise last year.
Mm-hmm.
Now everybody's just kind of getting diluted to the point now where, okay, just give me Aaron Rodgers for a year or so and then wait to see what happens from there.
Yeah, I think Aaron Rodgers' value, I mean, even though he's 39 years old, I mean, I think his production is going to be there. However, who knows who's going to catch? It might be like wide receiver roulette every week. Just kind of how it was in Green Bay. You didn't know who was going to, score the points that particular week. And it's just Aaron Rodgers football. SC, what do you think, big guy?
I think the question is not necessarily Garrett Wilson because he has the talent to be a wide receiver 1. He shows the separation. He'll get open. Aaron Rodgers will see that. For dynasty aspect, I think the bigger question as the wide receiver room is going to be Elijah Moore. For the rookie year, he had a good span where he was doing great and looking like a solid wide receiver 2 at max. And then they, drafted Garrett Wilson. It's like, okay, well, now his stock went down. And now they just signed Alan Lazard to 4 years. I think they believe in Garrett Wilson, but now it's saying, what about everyone else? Your Denzel Mims, like you said, Corey Davis probably cut, but Elijah Moore, I think, is going to take the biggest cut, where, Garrett Wilson will still be that wide receiver 1 for him and get a majority of your targets. Now, if they bring in Odell, that's a whole different topic, and that's someone that definitely could be on the rise and someone that, I know has wanted to say, I want to come back, and he already has experience in the Big Apple playing in with New York and the Giants. So hopefully, coming back and saying, all right, well, I didn't do it with the Giants, so I'm going to go to New York Jets with Aaron Rodgers and, make a run for it. That would be very interesting. Definitely a wide receiver to watch because that would hurt my Garrett Wilson shares for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's move on here. Little bit of news with the Panthers. They did a few things today. They did not tender PJ Walker, so he became a free agent. Let's see here. You were talking about the Giants a moment ago. I did see that it's a couple of reports out there, little rumblings that they're interested in upgrading their wide receiver core and that they've been talking with DJ Chark and McCole Hardman. So what are your guys' thoughts on that? Do you think that'd be a good fit? I mean, they did cut Kenny Galladay.
Finally.
And Galladay, but they've got, a lot of their other wide receivers are free agents. I think they brought back Sterling Shepard. But yeah, I think they could probably use some help there. And either one of those guys would be very, very helpful.
I think those are both field stretchers, and I don't think Daniel Jones is more of is really a field stretching kind of guy. He's more his fantasy value comes from rushing the ball and pop passes to Saquon and things like that. Like, I'm not really sure that those guys would be great fits on the Giants, but if it's another tool in the toolbox, then why not?
Getting Chark and McCole Hardman, you're in the same situation you were this past year. None are really your alpha wide receiver. I'm hoping that they go after, Jackson Smith-Njigba in the draft, or even someone like a Quentin Johnston or Jordan Ashton or Hyatt, just someone that I feel can add a little bit more excitement to that wide receiver room. Because, DJ Chark has had his great years. He had a phenomenal year in Jacksonville and had an okay year last year. McCole Hardman, he could be on your waivers, honestly. He's not someone that's going to be a big threat. He went from Patrick Mahomes to Daniel Jones, and you expect him to be better? Not so much there. So I think they still address that wide receiver room. Or if they're smart, DeAndre Hopkins is still a free agent. Go after him and be like, yo, we have, Brian.
Well, he's not a free agent. He's available via trade. Yeah.
Yeah, available. Go after him and say, like, what can we do with him? And it just doesn't move the needle a lot for me. I was hoping they signed Jacoby Myers. That didn't happen. He's in Las Vegas now. But it'll be interesting because I do expect them to pick up a wide receiver, whether it be free agency or the draft this year.
And I think it'd be great if they brought back Odell. What's a better place?
Yeah.
Is Jalen Hyatt just like a Spider-Man meme of Mecole Hardman kind of thing? Just run down the field 100 miles an hour, and it's all you can kind of do, a one-trick pony kind of thing?
No, Jalen Hyatt's a better receiver than that. He just happened to play at the University of Tennessee where they ran a very, very, very fast-paced, no-huddle offense, confused the hell out of all the defenses, and he just had big plays. The guy, it's like what every other catch he had ended up being like a 40-yard touchdown. But it was more – it was crazy. Never seen anything like it. It's pretty wild. But no, he's just not a downfield threat. He can run routes and he can break tackles. He's a very, very underrated wide receiver in this draft. All right, let's move on. Jadeveon Clowney got cut by the Browns today. Big deal there. He's voiced his opinion lately, how he was not happy there. So whatever. So let's move on to a little bit of quarterback news. Jacoby Brissett signed today with the Washington Commanders. I think that's a solid move. They could use that presence there in that offense. What do you guys think there?
I like Brissett. I think he's a good backup quarterback. That's I'm a big fan of Sam Howell, so I like to see what Howell can do. It's just a backup plan. It's buying time in case something doesn't work out with Howell or somebody in case of an injury. But I'm not thrilled if something happens where he's a starting quarterback by any means. But Washington has a lot of good players on their team. They're going to draft probably another, dumping off to Gibson, having McLaurin and the rest of the tools on this team. They're a team that I think should be going after a tight end right now, like a better. There's plenty of tight ends in this draft, so. But I'm not sure if one of these rookies will pan off right from the get-go. They need a quarterback just to be consistent is all they need. That's what I think.
Yep.
I like they do have a tight end, John Bates, I believe his name is. Pretty good tight end there. But Gesicki's a free agent. You can go after him if you need someone. But I agree. Jacoby's just a good backup quarterback. But he's one of those ones that you can plug him in and he can get it done on a fantasy. and for a team perspective, so definitely a solid move there. Also a fan of Sam Howell, think he came out a year later than what he should have, but still the organization seems to like him. So I think that's just a solid insurance policy if anything happens to him.
Yeah, and I also think that Jacoby's a great guy to learn from. I mean, you're bringing in a lot of these kind of bridge guys. I mean, it's just like what's his face signing in Carolina. I'm just already
Dalton.
Andy Dalton. Golly, wanted to say somebody else's name, but just like that. I mean, these guys are good to help and help progress these younger quarterbacks. Cody, you got anything to add to that?
I guess I don't see Brissett, I see Brissett and Heineke as the same quarterback. So I think he'd be a really good guy to learn from, like you said. I personally think Washington's the team that should be trying to go get Lamar Jackson because they have all the weapons they need, and I think they have everyone secured. They can just put that contract in for Lamar Jackson and let those receivers that they have Curtis Samuel, good dual threat with Lamar Jackson. They have Antonio Gibson and Brian Robinson there for that whole reason. They're set up for a Lamar Jackson type of quarterback. I think that would be huge. Do I think it'll happen? No. But
you have to give him guaranteed money. I mean, if you're going to get Lamar, his contract has to be fully guaranteed or nothing, and no one's going to do that.
Yeah, no. I think Brissett and Heineke are the same player, so I don't really get that signing. But the biggest thing is like you said was Brissett is way better to learn from.
Just thinking about it, I mean, what would be a better parting gift for Daniel Snyder before on his way out is to give Lamar Jackson a fully guaranteed contract and just screw the NFL from here on out as he's just like flipping everybody off as he's walking out the door. That would be probably a mic drop for him, walking out. So I'm crossing my fingers right now, hoping that doesn't happen. So,
but I mean, it's something that the organization can't be mad at him either. Cause it's like, yeah, I gave him this guaranteed money, but guess what? He's the best quarterback you've had since who I can't even name, a quarterback that's going to be to that tier and what he could bring to that team, especially, with having Gibson, having Brian Robinson. You do have a full team, like you mentioned, just missing that tight end. They don't have a Mark Andrews, but this will be Lamar Jackson's best wide receiver course to date, So it'd be interesting. I think that'd be a lot of fun, especially for that NFC East, So it would be very fun if Lamar does go there. Does it happen? Probably not, but I'd love to see it.
I think the only team I believe that does have a shot of maybe prying him away from Baltimore by throwing him a guaranteed contract, with the exception of Washington, might be Indianapolis. That's a team that I've just got a weird feeling about. I do. I really, really have a really, really funky feeling about that. They've obviously lost out on trading up for the number 1 pick. They're picking at 4, which means, Bryce and CJ Stroud both are going to be gone. Mm-hmm. The way it looks like Anthony Richardson's stock keeps rising. Someone may trade up to number 3 to get him. I don't know what Indianapolis does. I mean, Will Levis, I'm not a big fan. But so it just seems to me that would be either they trade back or, man, they really go hard for Lamar. I mean, if I'm them, I don't know. I mean, I don't think it would hurt to throw guaranteed money at Lamar. I mean, just like you said with Washington, friggin' Indy's been playing quarterback roulette for the last several years with Matt Ryan and Carson Wentz and all these guys. I mean, it's been a joke. It's just been awful. So yeah, some of these teams might get a little desperate, even though they're saying they're not gonna play ball with him. But
Irsay is just like Dan Snyder in ways that he'll take chances. So I think there's a shot there. I think.
Yeah, you get a few drinks in him, and he might just write up the contract himself. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Let's see. Kyle Allen signed with the Buffalo Bills. We'll just move on from there. So I'm going to talk about a little bit of running backs, and we're going to revisit this. Last night when we were on live, the news broke of David Montgomery signing that 3-year deal with the Detroit Lions. I don't want to get too long-winded with this, and because everyone's really been thinking about this today. But in a nutshell, guys, anyone can jump in here. What's this do for his value? I mean, is everyone just freaking out about DeAndre Swift now? I mean, is people automatically putting Montgomery in that Jamal Williams role where he's going to have 12, 13, 14, 15 touchdowns this year. I mean, what do we think here? I'm in a couple of startups right now, dynasties, and I actually made a trade this morning. I mean, dude, I'm in like the 11th round right now. Okay. David Montgomery's sitting there. I actually made a trade to get up a few picks when the draft resumed this morning, and the first person I took was him. I mean, shit. I mean, 11th round, David Montgomery. I mean, that's a low risk, high reward there. What do you guys think? What's your expectations with him?
Go ahead, CC. Gotta see.
Man, it's hard because you love Swift, right? When he came out, it was like, man, this is a great dual threat running back. He can do it all. He can get some points in there. And then David Montgomery comes in, and it's just that compliment to what Jamal Williams was, right? Someone that could go between the tackles and get it done. But it doesn't really move the needle. I mean, if anything, this hurts him because he's not now the true RB1. I think this is something where they could use Swift in there and just, complement each other. But at the same time, they could also do like a Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt kind of role and have, Swift line up outside. So you do have David Montgomery and DeAndre Swift on the field at the same time. Am I buying him? I actually just made a trade for him as well, where I traded Dameon Pierce away for him. This was before the news broke. But, it's something that I think it's interesting to see what the Lions do. I think they believe in Goff. They'll keep him for another year. They have a great young wide receiving core. So this is very interesting because Montgomery still is young. And I know he's had some hurtful seasons with Chicago. I believe only one over 1,000 yards rushing. So it'll be interesting to see what he does. He is a buy because you can probably get him for cheap just because of DeAndre Swift on that team still. But this is also, are they going to end up trading DeAndre Swift? Because I think he still has a lot of value, and they can probably get something pretty good for him and say, you know what, Montgomery, we're giving you the reins, and let's go make some moves to get more back for DeAndre Swift right now.
Him and Jamal, DeAndre Swift and Jamal, shared the field last year, and obviously we saw what numbers they both put up. I mean, Jamal Williams was, he was a league winner, honestly, with the points he was putting up weekly. Which was really strange to me because Jamal was never really a banger. I mean, he was never really a between the tackles type of guy. When he was in Green Bay, he was their third down back. Aaron Jones was your early down back, and he came in on third down. So that was kind of strange. It almost seemed so out of place, but hey, man, it worked for him. Montgomery is substantially better at getting those extra yards, at grinding. I'm just really, really excited to see what happens here, and I absolutely agree that he is a buy right now. Now, some people might, obviously the news is fresh, so someone will probably want a little too much for him, but it is absolutely worth looking at in your dynasty league, especially with so much uncertainty at running back right now with Alvin Kamara and Nick Chubb being rumored on the trading block, and you've got, you all can name Joe Mixon. A lot of these guys you're looking at, man, no one knows really what to expect from these guys. Zeke, all of this stuff's going down. So that's someone that I think will be a little bit more consistent and less to worry about than some of those other guys. Let me ask you this, John, if someone, would you give Joe Mixon for David Montgomery right now?
I like Joe Mixon, but I saw him taper off pretty bad last season. So that's kind of tough. I think you're banking on. I think people are banking on Swift being traded before the trade deadline this season. I think because they gave Montgomery a lot of guaranteed money, the most guaranteed money in a while for a running back. Anyway, after free agency, I tried trading this morning a couple times for the likes of like in a 0.75 tight end premium. I tried trading Cortland Sutton, Tyler Conklin, and a late third round pick to get Montgomery and got laughed at kind of thing, So it's I'm trying. I'm not going to overpay, but at the same time, this is if something did happen to Swift where he got traded, Montgomery would be what Swift. I think what a lot of people wanted Swift to be, because Swift's injuries last couple of years are, I think, his biggest problem. Staying on availability is the best ability, that kind of deal. And when people just get sick when you're on the field limping around, and when you do come back, you're 80% of what you should be or 70% of what you should be. They just can't afford to have these injuries on the Lions anymore. This is if Montgomery goes out there and does take a lead in this offense and something happens to Swift, they're going to cut bait with him and just say, we're going to go forward. Montgomery is the way I feel.
SC, would you trade Alvin Kamara for David Montgomery?
Man, honestly, right now, 100%. I do believe Kamara suspended at least 6 games. I saw the video and it was not pretty. It might be more than 6 games, So I do believe that one is one. Especially, we just talked about what Jamal Williams did for DeAndre Swift, and they just signed Jamal Williams in New Orleans, right? So that's a huge indicator of like, okay, maybe Kamara, there's more to the story that we don't know about. So Jamal Williams could go in there and really be that Mark Ingram role where we saw Mark Ingram go in there and shine, or even Latavius Murray. So I do believe he will be a big threat or even eat into Kamara's role. And I kind of think he'll benefit a little bit more with Derek Carr there, than Kamara would. So I would definitely a younger back in Dynasty as well. Maybe redraft. I'd have to think about it, I guess. But, that's assuming it's after week 6. I know Kamara's back. So, yeah, I definitely would trade David Montgomery for Alvin Kamara.
All right, Cody, I've got one for you. You are would you trade Derrick Henry for David Montgomery?
I wouldn't have traded any of those people for David Montgomery, in my opinion. But that's also me being biased because not for fantasy football reasons. I'm a Vikings fan, so I'm not scared of David Montgomery ever. So I just don't have him on my team. Does he fall forward? Yeah, but it's usually, from his 1-yard rush to get 3. So I would have all of those running backs on my team in fantasy before I would have David Montgomery.
Okay, fair enough. I got one more question before we move on, and it's for all 3 of you guys. Every one of those players I named, John, SC, Cody, would you trade any of the players that I listed to you? Would you trade any of them straight up for Tony Pollard?
I would trade everybody away for Tony Pollard.
Yeah, I agree.
Every one of those people you mentioned, including Derrick Henry, which I love Derrick Henry. He's not he'll run the ball 26 times for 18 yards, but then he'll always break one 85-yard run for a touchdown every game too. I know doesn't have a lot of PPR value. Most of my leagues are 0.2 points per carry too, so a lot of points for running backs who hold the ball. But Henry's got still his beginning of his career, he didn't have much traction, so he's putting a lot of miles on right now, but his body can sustain it. He's got a team that used the play action very well, and they if he's not going anywhere, first of all, stays in the Titans, yes, I would. It would be tough. It would be tough.
Gotcha. All right, let's move on a little bit here. Nothing crazy, but Travis Homer signed with the Bears, so maybe that's the answer to their question. Let's see here. Myles Gaskin re-signed with the Dolphins. I think they brought back Raheem Mostert. They brought back who else they bring back?
Salvin Ahmed too.
Yeah, brought back. Oh, man, they brought back another one.
The whole backfield.
They brought back everyone, really.
Yes.
Was it Jeff Wilson? Maybe.
Yes. Wilson.
Yeah, they brought them all back. So, God, that whole backfield is muddied up again. That was somewhere I was hoping maybe a solid, running back would end up. But golly, it's right back to the mess that it was before. One of the guys I was maybe hoping that they would grab onto would have been someone like Miles Sanders, who earlier today signed with the Carolina Panthers. What do you all think about that? D'Onta Foreman had a pretty productive season last year. And I believe I don't know if they've brought him back or if he's a pending free agent. I think that he's a free agent.
He's a free agent. He had a 1-year deal.
Yeah. So what's our thoughts there? Obviously they're going to have a new quarterback in town, whether it's Bryce Young or it's CJ Stroud. What are our thoughts there with Miles?
You could still bring in Damian Harris right now. If you were the Dolphins, he'd be an upgrade over almost everybody in the backfield. There's Leonard Fournette still out there. I don't understand why you're bringing all these guys. You already know what you have, especially when some of them are injury prone. They're definitely injury prone running backs,
and they're old.
They're older. They're not as old as I am, but they're old.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It makes very little sense to me, but man, what? I mean, I guess it never hurts to have depth. I mean, those guys, all of them, like you said, tend to get hurt. So hey, may as well have 4 of them just in case the other 3 are, down for the count there. So I don't know. That's pretty interesting. But no, Miles Sanders, I think, is an interesting grab in Carolina. I don't know how explosive that offense is going to be this next year. But they could lean on him, and Sanders could get a lot of dump off passes with that rookie quarterback. I mean, there could be some garbage time there for this guy. It could be a sneaky little play.
He is reuniting with his former running backs coach and Deuce Staley, so
Deuce
that's
Staley, yep.
there to just take note of because he knows what that system will bring. And the fact that he is going in there with a most likely rookie quarterback is big, especially since they got rid of DJ Moore. They don't really have a true alpha there. So he could definitely benefit from that passing game and make some big moves. The Panthers also signed Hayden Hurst, so that's a sleeper for me and a buy low because again, no wide receivers. Hey, Hayden Hurst may be the target guy there for them, at least in year 1. So Hayden Miles, if you can get them, I definitely would.
Yeah, those those quarterbacks tend to like to work the middle of the field a little bit. It's a little bit more of their safe zone. So yeah. Hayden Hurst is a very, very sneaky play there. He could get a lot more targets than a lot of folks would think. So, we did mention Jamal Williams signing with the Saints. I think that was a pretty solid move for them. A little bit insurance policy just in case of whatever happens with Kamara. Alexander Mattison re-signed today with the Vikings for 2 more years. Not sure what to think about this. I know Dalvin Cook has been on the trade block, or at least rumored that Buffalo was talking with them, that even Miami had even reached out about him. Maybe there's some other teams, maybe there's not. But if Dalvin were to get moved, if they were to come off him, which I think I saw a report today that they don't have intentions of trading him, but just in case they did, do you think they bring someone else in, or do you think Madison's the guy?
They're going to need to bring somebody else in no matter what. I think it's the depth chart's not that deep where they can just say, no, that's okay, we'll just go what we got right now. So I'm thinking if they do dump off, Dalvin Cook, I'm not sure Madison can sustain that load. First of all, that's another thing too. He's had a couple injuries in his lifetime, in his career also. So to have just Kenny Ngakoue and Ty Chandler, who I know they like Ty Chandler, but he's been hurt too for a whole year. They're going to have to bring somebody else in if they do get rid of Dalvin Cook. And even with Dalvin Cook, he had shoulder surgery in the offseason. Who's to say he's going to come back 100% right now, right at the beginning of the season also?
He's never 100%.
No, he hasn't been 100% in years.
I did say this was your team, Cody, the Vikings. I mean, I think it's I love Madison. If I truthfully in some leagues I chose Madison over Cook, as far as the Viking running back I would want, just because he's a great end of season play. I feel like more times than not, end of season, he's someone that's going to benefit on your team, especially with the running back carousel, just running through injuries and everything like that. He's someone that can come in and step up. Will he be their one? No, but will they bring in someone from free agency? If they let go of Cook, I can see them just addressing that in the draft. I mean, you have a pretty deep draft class here that can go in there and compete with Madison for that one role. But I think, can't he be the starter week 1? I'm not mad at it.
Yeah, I'm guessing they go running back by committee as well. And I do think, based off of the moves they've made already, I do think it's going to be a lot of an offensive draft for them. So, I mean, in fantasy-wise, that's probably not what you want to hear is running back by committee, but we all have to face those facts that a lot of teams are that now. So you have to handcuffs are more important than ever.
Mm-hmm. What do you think about this one? I just saw it right now. James Robinson to the Patriots, 2 years, $8 million.
Oh, that one's nice. I mean, hate it because he tore his Achilles. I mean, so that's always hard, but that's not, you have Ramondre Stevenson, and now that just clear indicator, hey, we're not looking at Damian Harris. and that's a sneaky play there too, and definitely someone you want to cuff with Ramondre.
That means 100% they're moving on from Damian Harris. So that pretty much says that explains that. That's an open book right there. Moving on from Harris, but which I think to go from Damian Harris, not sign him and give that kind of money to James Robinson. I know James Robinson is good, but I would have much rather have Damian Harris on my team.
Really?
I agree with you, John. Just because, I mean, Ramondre is already the receiving back, and I only see James Robinson as a third down back. So, and Damian Harris proved that he can do the dirty work, first of all, and second of all, he can run up the middle a lot. I think just a little bit better than Ramondre at this time, just because, I mean, will Ramondre get there? Yes, but I don't think James Robinson helps him in that way anyway. I don't think he can be that first down back to get you 5 yards.
You don't think they plug him in that LeGarrette Blount type of role that they always seem to want to fill, you know?
If they wanted that, we have Lenny out there. Then I think
I'm going to tell you, man, James Robinson, man, he's underrated. I like the move. I don't like it for Ramondre owners, though. I'll tell you that. I like the move. I think he's a very, very good running back.
There's no doubt. There's no doubt he's a good running back by any means whatsoever. He showed that on the field, but he's pretty much replacing Damian Harris. I mean, that's all he's really going to do on this team. But you're looking at, now you got Pierce Strong and Kevin Harris, who did a pretty well job in the passing game too. Are they going to give Ramondre a 3-down role and just kind of punch in James Robinson every once in a while and give these guys more special teams work? Is it like Strong and Harris? What is the plan here? I really don't understand. It's
New England. No one knows the plan. That's the thing. No one knows the plan. Hey, listen, we need to back up a little bit here. We were talking about quarterbacks and how in the world. I mean, looking over my show notes here. How in the world did I black out for a little while? Did we talk about Baker Mayfield or not?
Baker, the touchdown maker.
Yeah, exactly. Listen, I mean, I apologize. I'm talking about Jacoby. We're talking about Kyle Allen. I'm like, I forgot to totally mention the Baker Mayfield signing here. Before we move on to like wide receivers and everything, I mean, what's our thoughts on the Baker signing? I mean, is this good for Baker? I think it's bad for the receivers. I think they downgrade a little bit. I mean, what's your guys' thoughts on that? SC, what do you think, man?
This is the prove it deal. Like, so, hey, you have Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, you have a receiving back in Rachaad White, you have the weapons in front of you. If you can't do it here, then I don't know. You're a backup to me. I will point out at Kyle Trask because this is an interesting competition. Because right before the Baker, it was like, okay, Kyle Trask is the guy we're going with. When he was at Florida, he had weapons around him and he succeeded. So I think bringing him in here now, he has weapons around him. This is very interesting because Baker's in there and he did well when he was with the Los Angeles Rams, but it's also, I don't think it's that far apart as we want to think from Baker Mayfield and Kyle Trask. Hey, this is your last chance, man. You got to do it. There's no excuses now.
Well, I did see a report that he did turn down more money from the Baltimore Ravens, that the Ravens who were in contact, actually they were talking with him and Jacoby Brissett in regards to this whole situation with Lamar. And it makes sense I had mentioned it a few days ago on one of our shows, that I could see him possibly with the Ravens reuniting with Todd Monken, the offensive coordinator there. So apparently Baltimore was in on that, but obviously he had no chance of starting there. He had no chance of starting there. So, let's go somewhere where I can possibly start. So, Baker's the new QB1 for Tampa. Does that increase Godwin or Evans' fantasy, or will it increase his fantasy?
No, that's a terrible. That they were the most pass-friendly team in the league last. With Tom Brady back there, they're gonna regress a lot with as far as they're gonna go definitely a running situation now. I feel like if I'm Tampa Bay, I try to trade Godwin and Chris Evans or Mike Evans and kind of start from scratch and redo this whole situation because you lost a lot of players on defense. You lost a lot of players. You already lost. Tom Brady, you cannot replace Tom Brady. If you're going to be a running team with an average defense, where are you going to go with this? Your mid is not going to cut the mustard here.
Yeah, I tend to agree there. The only thing about trading Mike Evans or Chris Godwin is they don't have trade-friendly contracts.
Mhm.
You're going to take on a lot of dead money by trading those guys, and I think if they were tradable, I think they would. I would imagine Mike Evans would certainly be gone.
I wouldn't say Godwin's is huge. I think it's not. It was 4 years for like 40 million or something like that, but a lot of it's like 32 of it's guaranteed or something. It's not huge, but he's a number one receiver. I mean, you're not trying to get DJ Chark or some other guy like you're getting Chris Godwin on the right team.
I agree.
He's a stud.
I agree. I just think that it's just it's going to have to be worthwhile for Tampa, considering all the money they'd have to eat by making those deals.
What if Chris Godwin was a slot receiver on a team like Buffalo? I mean, with stretching the field with Diggs and Davis on the outside, that would be the best scenario known to man for.
Why do you want everyone to go to Buffalo?
Because I love Josh Allen. That's why.
You got Derrick Henry going to Buffalo. You got them all. No, I'm messing. I'm teasing you, man. I'm teasing you. No, I mean, of course he'd be. Oh, that'd be dangerous. I mean, imagine him going to Kansas City. I mean, they just lost Juju. Imagine him going there.
I think Godwin and Mike Evans still produced when Jameis Winston was back there.
Mm-hmm.
So then we have to have the conversation: is Jameis Winston or Baker Mayfield? Are they one and the same? And if that, I don't think it hurts the stock that much.
I think Jameis had a better arm.
You better watch your mouth talking about Jameis Winston, okay?
I think Baker is a little bit more accurate. He might not have the arm, but I think he may be a little bit more accurate.
Yeah, I agree. Listen, I like Baker. I just don't, I don't know if he can make the. Well, talking about arm strength, they did have, Tommy Brady back there last year. So, who knows?
Worst case is they don't do anything with Baker. He's not what we think he is. And then they go after Caleb Williams next year. So it could benefit them in that end too.
Oh, they're not going to have the number. They still got enough players just to be like picking eighth.
They're not even
close. What I'm saying? Yeah,
I don't even need a bidding war for Caleb though.
I mean, they might have to mortgage the future. They might have to do what Chicago and Carolina just pulled off. So, yeah. All right. So cool. We've moved off of Baker there, and so we're going to talk about. I just mentioned Juju Smith-Schuster. I mean, he signed with the Patriots, which is really, really funny. He signs for the exact same amount of money that Jacoby Myers signed for in Las Vegas. And the funny thing is like. I don't know if you saw Jacoby Myers tweeted earlier. And he was like, man, that's cold-blooded. He was like, he got the same money I was trying to get. I mean, what do we think? I mean, Juju, a good fit there. I mean, some of those wide receivers that they've had there, I mean, Jacoby was probably he was the guy you could rely on to actually plug in your starting lineup as far as a fantasy team. But, your Kendrick Bournes and guys like that was such a risk playing those. But can we expect similar production out of Juju as we saw out of Jacoby Myers?
I think Juju's a good number 2. I don't think he's a great right now he's penciled in as the number 1 receiver on his team, and I'm not sure that's his route tree is pretty limited. So I don't see him being the number 1 everybody is talking about. They're gonna have to draft somebody, and they're not good at drafting wide receivers. So I'm not sure where this is going to go. Volume wise, yes. Short intermediate routes, out routes, digs, stuff like that he's good at, and Mac Jones is an accurate quarterback. He doesn't have a great arm either, so Juju will be a great number 2 guy, I think, but they're going to have to bring in somebody better or draft a stud wide receiver to go along with Juju.
100% agree. I talked about some free agent wide receivers with Fantasy Nuts UK, and Juju was brought up. And, the idea was, or I said he would go to New England. That was my thought that he would. And, he did sign. But we look back at his career, his best year was wide receiver 2 to Antonio Brown. And, say what we want to say about Antonio Brown. He's one of the greatest to ever play the game. But that year, he had 166 targets, 111 receptions, and over 1,400 yards. Since then, he has not even had over 1,000 receiving yards. So he's a solid wide receiver too. And okay, they signed him, 3 years, and that's cool and all. But my buys for the wide receivers in New England would be Kendrick Bourne or Tyquan Thornton. I think those will be the sleeper guys that you want to get there. I don't think Juju's the one, and I don't think he's gonna. It's Mac Jones. That's a downgrade from Patrick Mahomes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The problem with this is now is does Juju become a like a sell or a hold right now, because you're not going to get, everybody sees Patriots wide receivers and they just go bleh, they don't want them, and if you can't sell them anywhere.
I think his value hasn't increased or decreased. I think he's just kind of like just kind of plateaued there.
He's pretty touchdown dependent, so I think I think he's still a hold. So I think that's why they ultimately signed him too. So
I don't know what to think, because I know that New England was in talks with Arizona about bringing in DeAndre Hopkins. I know that that's something that's been out there. I don't know if the signing of Juju eliminates that, but think about it right now. I mean, would you be trying to maybe sell Juju? Because if they did bring in Nuke, if they did bring in Hopkins, now, I mean, value does drop for Juju.
I'm not sure about that. I think he'd become a buy if they brought in a better receiver and he just got all the underneath targets.
Well, he's going to get the underneath targets no matter what. I mean, he's filling in for, Jacoby Myers. I mean, he's playing that role.
Over 100 targets, 120 targets?
This moment, yes. At this moment, yes, because that's all they really have. I mean, Jacoby Myers was a productive fantasy wide receiver. I think Juju will be very, very similar in production if he stays healthy and they roll out there with this same wide receiver core. If they bring in another weapon, everything changes. All right, moving on. Ashton Dulin re-signs with the Colts. Big deal. Deontay Hasty, Hardy, whatever you want to call him.
Hold on. Time out.
What?
Ashton Dulin I think he's a sleeper. I mean, maybe I'm just brainwashed by Matt Kelly or something like that, talking about Ashton Dulin all the time. But I think he's a pretty damn good receiver. That just he got hurt a little bit. He said he was out a year with an injury. But he could, what they have on that roster, on that depth chart, Ashton Dulin could be a decent wide receiver, like a pretty good wide receiver 3.
In deep leagues, he's a buy. I mean, he's back there. I have him in a 32-man league, and he's definitely someone that when he's on the field, he could be a threat. But again, it's been healthy. Being
health issue,
for him. But I definitely think he's someone that in deeper leagues, not your regular 12, 10-man league, right, like that, but your deeper leagues, he could definitely be someone on your bench to fill in when you get injured wide receivers.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt buying him. I mean, you're giving probably next to nothing for him. Mm-hmm. And there have been some whispers of Indianapolis still trying to maybe trade up and get that number 1 pick, and Carolina possibly dropping out of that spot, even though they traded up to get it. And who knows if Michael Pittman maybe not be part of that deal. So just something to consider. I mean, imagine for a moment Michael Pittman's out of town. I mean, Dulin, goes up.
I would love that for my Alec Pierce years, Serge. So
awesome. Yeah, there you go.
Old Alec Pierce. Yeah, boy, he was useful for a couple of games, I'll tell you. Like I said, Deontay Hardy, Hasty, whatever, signed with the Bills. Probably more of like your downfield threat. Probably don't think that's really going to really add much.
Special teamer. That's it.
Yeah, pretty much there. We are, not really any tight end news except for the Hayden Hurst signing with Carolina on that 3-year deal. We all like that deal. That's pretty much about it. A little bit of defensive news here. Kalen Saunders signed with the Saints, former Kansas City Chief. Just some depth there on the interior, defensive line. Fletcher Cox re-ups and takes a team-friendly deal to stay in Philly. Sheldon Rankins signed with the Texans today. That's a pretty good pickup for them as far as fantasy production. Nothing there.
I love that one, though, just because he's coming from a Robert Saleh kind of scheme, and D'Amico Ryan's is familiar with that as well. So now you have someone that could be a good veteran on the line to help increase it. Fantasy perspective, defensive tackles are meh. You have to have like the Aaron Donalds, if you will, there or something like that. So it's definitely someone that can be, a big play though for them.
Yeah, and speaking of the Houston Texans, I did see we're moving on to linebackers now. I did see that Houston has a visit scheduled with linebacker Denzel Perryman
Nice.
tomorrow. And for any of you IDP players out there, SC, Perriman's been a sneaky good play for fantasy for your IDP leagues out there. He's a very, very productive linebacker. Gets a lot of tackles. And with the moves that have been made in Las Vegas, I mean, it looks like he's out. So I like it for a team that's probably not going to have the greatest offense right now. I think he's going to be on the field quite a bit. Health issues, there's been a little bit, staying on the field has been a little bit of an issue. But when he is on the field, he is extremely productive. I think if he ends up in somewhere like Houston with that dismal offense, he's going to be on the field quite a bit, which is fantastic for IDP players out there. And we got a little bit of breaking news. Looks like PJ Walker just signed with the Bears.
Yeah, same system guy, same type of quarterback, just not as good as Justin Fields, obviously, but a
can play that same kind of offense. If he was to go down, he steps right in.
Microwave version of the offense of the quarterback right now, the Justin Fields. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so Real JW Sports, thanks for sending that in and helping us out with that, man. That's cool. Appreciate it.
Back to Perriman. I mean, you just mentioned, health. That's been his biggest concern. I think it was 2 years ago he played 15 games. This last year he played 12, but when he played the 15 games, he had over 150 tackles. Big, and he's gonna go somewhere where he's gonna be the leader. So it's definitely someone. Again, DeMeco Ryans, if he's bringing what he had, in San Fran, this is gonna be a phenomenal defense and something that we can see mold into just a ferocious kind of defense. And having a leader like Denzel Perryman as a veteran will bode well. And if he's healthy, he's definitely an IDP watch because. Again, 150 tackles. He had 83 last year in 12 games. So, imagine having an extra 5 games, he would have hit over that 100 mark again. So definitely watch.
Very much so. I'm in a startup right now that is an IDP and Devi startup there. John, that's bad words for John, but anyways, a lot of those linebackers have kind of gone, and Perryman's always been a nice little pickup for me every year for the last, over the last 3 or so years. So I think seeing if he does sign tomorrow, man, I'm grabbing him immediately. So good stuff there. So moving on, some other linebackers, Cole Holcomb, the former Washington Commander, signed with the Steelers today on a 3-year deal.
I love that. He's a gritty linebacker, is not afraid to get dirty and get down with it. When he's healthy, a couple years ago had over 140 tackles or so. Past year, he played 7 games, but only had 69 tackles. But he's someone that's going to fit right into that Pittsburgh mold, be an aggressive guy. And again, he's honestly someone that you can put him on special teams and he'll still be impactful there as well.
Yeah.
So I really love that signing, and I have big hopes for Cole Holcomb.
Is Miles Jack still in Pittsburgh, or is he a free agent?
I think
because some of those inside linebackers have been pretty productive in that. I think Bush is gone.
Bush is gone.
Bush is gone, but I couldn't remember if Miles Jack is still under contract there or not. But regardless of that, Cole Holcomb is a fantastic addition to that defense. He will fit. He will look like a Steeler day one. Exactly. Great signing for them. And for anyone, like we were talking about IDP leagues, another fantastic play there, a nice kind of under the radar signing there.
If you think about it, most of your IDP drafts, you're probably getting TJ Watt and Miles Jack first. So now you go in there, it's like, wait, there's also a guy in Cole Holcomb that I can get that can possibly get over 100 tackles too later rounds. Definitely.
Absolutely. Great piece to add on your teams there. Levante David re-signed with the Buccaneers today for a year, for a 1-year deal. I like that. He's 33 years old, but a solid move. He's been a very, very productive linebacker. IDP leagues, kind of middle of the road type of guy. So I just think it's better, a little bit better of a football move than a fantasy football move there. So Byron Murphy, the cornerback, formerly Arizona, signed with the Vikings today for a couple of years at $22 million. Not a bad little signing for them. He'll certainly help out that defense. Moving on, looking at some safeties here. Jordan Poyer looks like he's re-signing with the Bills, which is a great move for them. He has been just a solid defensive player for years. He's been a great leader for that team, and they've lost a few players, so it's nice that they can kind of retain him. He is most definitely an IDP asset. Jordan Poyer, when he's on the field, he is a very productive player.
And definitely someone that he stayed with Buffalo. I mean, he's the leader of that team, so he's definitely involved in every single play as long as he's healthy, and someone to buy for sure.
God, it seems like he's been in the league for like 15 years, man. It's kind of crazy.
Right.
But he hasn't. Deshaun Elliott, former Baltimore Raven, signed with the Dolphins on a 1-year deal. Cheap is a little over $1 million. I think it's a great signing for them. A little limited in his pass catching or his pass coverage, but man, the guy can just thump. I mean, he loves hitting people. And I think he's a great addition to that defense there. If he starts, he's a sneaky little tackle guy that might be able to get you a few points on the back end of your IDP like league. So something to keep an eye on. And probably and go ahead.
I think he's an underrated safety. I mean, Brandon Jones got hurt last year, tore his ACL, so it definitely is an opportunity for him to go in there and start. But I mean, he came out from Detroit last year with 90 tackles.
Yeah.
So I think he's definitely an underrated one, and you're going to have him pair up with Javon Holland. So I think that's a definitely good move for them, and shows. I think Miami is going to focus more on your defensive side, re-signing all these running backs and everything, saying we're good with the offensive scheme that we had as long as Tua was there, but now we're going to focus on this defense, and signing Deshaun Elliott, a younger safety there, is a huge move for them, and I'm really excited to see what they can do.
Yeah, he's a good, strong safety, and it allows Javon Holland to play more center field, right. And that's what they want. That's what they want for him. The only problem with Deshaun Elliott, man, is just keeping healthy. I mean, in the 4 years he was in Baltimore, I mean, his season ended 3 times.
Right.
So keeping him healthy. I mean, I remember him coming out of Texas, heck of a player there, and we loved seeing him there. But man, it just sucked. He had worked so hard to get back and then get hurt again. It was so exhausting, and I would hate it for him. But he did tweet earlier today that the Dolphins do play the Ravens this season. So he kind of tweeted that out, a little revenge game type of stuff there. So last signing that we're going to bring up, Juan Thornhill signed with the Cleveland Browns today on a 3-year, $21 million deal. SC, what's your thoughts on that? I like the move. I like it.
I love that move. I mean, he's what now, Super Bowl champion. So you're bringing in that experience to the culture in Cleveland, and just someone, you lost your Jadeveon Clowney. He was a good veteran, but now you're bringing in this guy that knows what it takes to get there, to hype up that defense, and we might see him actually improve than what he did in Kansas City. He was coming in as, when you think about Kansas City, it's like, okay, who do they have next to kind of move in there? Now you're bringing in Juan Thornhill, who had his best year last year, and he made the most out of it by saying, all right, I'm going to get paid now. And Kansas City said, okay, 70 tackles. Will he duplicate that? I think it could go up. I think he could get just south of 100 tackles this year, possibly being one of those leaders in Cleveland to say, hey, look, we have the skill set on this team to make a run. Now let's go do it. And, having that will definitely help.
Yeah, and I think they lost John Johnson, didn't they? I
believe so.
Yeah, I believe he signed somewhere else. So I think they're filling that role, and I think Thornhill's a very, very nice addition. And in that division, I think he's going to get a few extra tackles. So that will certainly help if you've got him in an IDP league. So,
sure.
Well, guys, that's it. John, I know you really, really appreciated all that delicious IDP talk, since you just love that stuff. So I'm just glad I could help.
Thank you very much. It's it is nice to hear. The more and more I get exposed to it, the more and more kind of like, I'm that fish that sees the worm in the corner of my eye, and it's, I'm getting closer to that hook every day. I'm eventually going to bite it. It is what it is, because I do love defense. Nothing was better than growing up watching the '85 Bears and the Ravens defense in 2000. Watching defensive teams just dominate the NFL is what it is. You can have the best you could have the best offense in the league as we've seen before. When you go up against a steamroller team with a great defense, you have no chance. Offense wins games and defense wins championships, and they say that for a reason because a good defense is almost impossible to build. But at the same time, when you do build it, I mean, you can't. There's nothing you can do about it. It is what it is.
Same thing in fantasy. It's the same thing when you play in an IDP league. I mean, you're going to sit there and look, and you're going to want to grab some of these offensive players because they're still on the board. However, you see a Roquan Smith, or you see a TJ Watt, a Nick Bosa. You see those guys sitting there, Aiden Hutchinson, and you're like, I need to go grab those. So a lot more decisions, but it makes you watch the game more. You're watching defense and you're really, and then you see someone get a sack and you're like, oh my God, who's defensive? Oh shit, that was John's guy. I mean, so it's fun. It's fun to play. One day we're going to get you involved, and I promise you, John.
What do you do when the red zone's on? What do you do in the red zone's on? There's no defense.
I don't do red zone. I do. I have 8 games going at once on my screen. With NFL Network now, with NFL Network not doing it anymore, now you're on YouTube or whatever they're doing. I don't know how that's going to go. That's going to jack me up. That's going to mess me up. So they're going to have to figure that out.
So you have to come up with a zone for defense, like an orange zone or something like that. It's just nothing but offensive defensive plays all game long. So your IDP guys can just tune in. They got the red zone on one game and the orange game on the other one. It's nothing but defense.
We're watching offense, but we're paying attention to defense. So don't worry. I've got my home league here that I'm going to be adding punters this year.
Oh no!
Nice.
Oh yeah, punters, baby. 1.8. They're going to get a point if the ball's down inside the 20, you get 1 point. If it's down inside the 10, you get 2. If it's down inside the 5-yard line, you get 3 points. So we're going to be watching it all.
You get points for coffin corner punts. That would be awesome.
Well, I don't know about that, but inside the 5, you're going to get 3 points for that. So we're all about it.
That was an old thing back in the day with the coffin corner punters, where if they get the ball out of bounds at the 3, 4, 5-yard line, it was invaluable. And I'm not sure why they got away from that now, where they keep punting to everybody all the time. I don't know why that became a lost art.
I don't know if anyone really knows how to do that any longer.
Maybe
just rearing back and just giving it hell, honestly. So, well, cool. Well, all right, guys. Well, that's the show for tonight. We want to thank everyone for tuning in. Tell your friends about us, and if you don't mind, give us a follow. Follow us on Twitter. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already. We've got a few more shows lined up this week for free agency. So keep looking out for us. We'll be back on at 9:15 p.m. tomorrow Eastern time. But for myself, for John McGlynn, for Cody Folden, and SC Romero, like I said, we want to thank you for watching the show. Tune in tomorrow night. But for now, see you, everyone.
Bye.
Take it easy, guys.